Hey my loves, here's my 2000s makeup tutorial, and today we're talking about the case of my ex and some red flags I experienced in my relationship, situationship, dating scene in 2021. First off, I want to say I had low self-esteem. I was out of line to begin with because the person I dated had already slept with at least two of my friends. So I look back and see what kind of character I had, as well as clearly how desperate I had become. I think girl code had flew out the window at that point in my life because I was lonely and I just wanted to be treated right, and I thought that I was going to get that. The first red flag I remember is ignoring this kind of love bomb thing where I was invited on vacation, even though he didn't go and I didn't go. I just thought it was kind of weird because I'm like, I barely know you. Why would we go anywhere together? But I also thought it was cute. So if they're like trying to move too quickly and y'all are just getting to know one another, that's a red flag because I feel like they're trying to woo you with this version of themselves that's really not there, you know, with a trip and just trying to reel you in. Next is that they kind of only want to see you at night or kind of use you for what you can do for them. See, I was a hairstylist and I used to do his hair. And so I remember just us not going on dates anymore, and I felt like that you only want one thing when you're not planning dates with me, as well as when I was on the verge or when I was done with him around Thanksgiving in 2021. I remember him and his friends trying to bully me into giving him a hair appointment and doing his hair. And it's like, after all you have been not doing, you know, towards me, you haven't been acting right. Leads me back to another red flag is just random anger towards me, you know? Like, if I say one thing or we have a disagreement, it's like a blow up. In my example here, to just be really vulnerable, is like I invited him to go to the gym, and out of nowhere he like blows up on me about not wanting to go to the gym. And that's just also another red flag of that like uncontrollable or random outbursts. If they're unstable with their emotions, you don't know what version or you don't know what triggers them, and you can expect to always have that taken out on you for no apparent reason. I feel like I'm running all over the place, but I just say all that to say, if they don't want to be interested in what you're interested in, that's what love is. Just because they may not actually love working out, because they love you, they would want to make that time and spend that time with you, you know? So I noticed I had to start begging for quality time, or he wasn't inviting me to things like events that he could easily invite me to, which also leads me to another red flag is where I felt the relationship became one-sided, where he got to meet my family. I think even meet my grandparents, meet my people. But when it was time I wanted to go to his place or meet his mom, you know, that just never occurred. And that was really bothering me because I felt like if you're talking about marriage with someone or being their girlfriend, this is a red flag if you're not able to see their side or how they live or where they live or their family. This is, if you're trying to merge with someone and become one, these are things that you got to get introduced to around the beginning. And that was not happening, but it felt like on my end, it was happening for him. So that didn't sit right with me. So things only got worse, you know, when I kept bringing it up, and it just would kind of get pushed to the back burner. Or I was very agreeable then because I didn't want to be abandoned. Them abandonment issues will have you playing nice, saying yes, and just kind of going with the flow even when things are irritating you. And even when you speak up on it, you tend to just keep the peace because you don't want to lose them. But ultimately, on the inside, you're losing yourself because you're like, I want to get to know everything about you, what makes you, you. And also, if you're like a family girl or you're the wifey type, you're just sitting here wondering, like, am I not good enough to be introduced to the family? Like, what is it? These are the things that make you begin to become insecure about yourself, and it makes you feel like you're not good enough to be brought home or brought around his friends, his friend group. It's like they want you to be a little trophy wife, but not actually show you off. It's like, it was weird. Very weird. Another red flag is if they're in competition with you or just also super insecure and jealous. So one example of this for me is like whenever me and him would like get into it and I was just casually posting myself, it was like I would get accused of like trying to show myself off. And so then he would start posting himself in like a competitive way. And it's like, it's not even like that on my end, but that was also very frustrating because it always felt like when we were at odds, it was like war. And also, let's just go backwards to the part where another red flag I ignored is while I was doing his hair. I remember in his phone seeing that he was texting his ex, and I remember asking about it. But my little naive self just let it go and really never thought about it again. But looking back, after the whole relationship, I know it was way more to it than I simply allowed myself to ignore, because it was no reason for them to be in communication. And the reason I say that is because when we were done, I was going through with him. I felt like I kept catching him doing stuff while he's begging for me back. For example, this is while he's begging for me back. On Snapchat, I seen his friend post like a picture of him, and I zoomed in and I seen a little purse in that picture. Because as females, we are investigators and we got the eyes. We got them eyes when it's the man that we want. And I seen that purse and I sent it to him. And so it's like you're caught again and we're not even together. You're constantly, your actions are speaking louder than these words. And I had to protect myself because it's like the math isn't mathing. You saying you want me, but I keep catching you in just getting caught like a deer in headlights. And I'm just too smart for that, to let my heart and my feelings lead me back down that road. And so the final time that took me out where I felt like this guy was the thorn in my flesh, which is talked about in the Bible, but the thorn in your flesh is just like maybe like an addiction, or because people can be addictive, addiction, a habit, or something you just can't overcome. And I felt like I was always very strong and able to move on from dudes, or not just be a complete fool for a dude. But for some reason, this situation had me in a chokehold. And my last straw was when I became back friends with one of my so-called friends. And, this is why I know God was in my midst, because he allowed me. I never really do stuff like this. I literally went through her phone and found the thread with her and the boy I used to date. And I went through their messages, and tell me why I found out that he had got another girl pregnant. And mind you, this was around the time he was still texting me to try to get back with me. Wasn't even really replying, but still, I still was holding on to hope, and I still secretly deep down wanted to be with him. So that right there, that just set me off, and I actually called him and, kind of went off on him, which of course, someone who wants you back, they want that. They want you to know that you still got feelings. You still, you still care. And so that was just like a thrill for him. Because I literally seen him DM my friend the next day, kind of laughing about it, like joking it off. And that's when I knew, like, this is just sinister here, because it's like you playing with me and you seeing me get upset about it is actually making you laugh. This is actually getting a rise out of you. Like, this is actually a game to you. And so I just knew then that I had to pray to God, like, please just help me to let go of hope. Because sometimes you will keep hope alive for a person, hope that y'all get married, hope that y'all date again, hope that he'll get his act together. And that hope is the very thing keeping you connected. That hope is the very thing killing you. See, I had to regain a new hope, a hope for a new life, a hope to not be bitter, a hope to not want someone who doesn't want me and who's not good for me and who doesn't care to change in their life right now, or that's just not on their mind or agenda. Because best believe I was praying to God, trying to force God to tell me he was the one. And God was just really telling me around that time he wasn't the one. And even in my old testimonies, I actually thank God for this situationship, because without this relationship, this one drove me straight to God. I owe that relationship my current life, my current blessing, my current prayers, because had I not went through that with him, I wouldn't be living in an answered prayer right now. I wouldn't have been pushed to my breaking point. And I want to tell someone out there, at your lowest point, ooh, that is your best point. That is your best life. Because had God told me when I was crying in the tub over this man and feeling at my lowest, feeling dirty, feeling unclean, feeling like I could never have love, I could never have value in this world, I could never be valued by any friend or male, to now being in my own apartment and having my own YouTube channel, you couldn't have told me all that was going to happen because of me having that thorn in my flesh for the worst relationship that pushed me closer to God, where I got on my knees and I cried and I prayed and I said I would follow him. So ultimately, all the red flags I ignored, it worked together for my good. And so even another red flag is like when they're super selfish. Because I also just remembered, like, anything I asked or wanted him to get me, he would get me the wrong gift, something I didn't want, which it just really shows your character. Because when I was done with him, he sent me, at the time, my favorite ice cream was chocolate. He sent me Tiff's treats. And it's like, while we were dating, I couldn't get that. I didn't get the things I wanted. So to me, that spoke volumes that you know what I like, you know what I love, and you purposely didn't get it. You purposely didn't buy me anything that would make me happy. So why would I continue to date someone who hates me or wants to torture me? Is honestly where I was at in the relationship. Even though I wanted to stay, that's what I felt like. I was being tortured with the highs and the lows. Another red flag, if they just got out of a relationship, a long-term one, that's also a red flag, because now you're the rebound to make their ex jealous. And that was me. I was just a pawn in a game to make his ex completely jealous. Whereas I'm thinking like, oh, don't be arrogant. Don't have this mindset. I'm too cute to be played with. I'm too cute to be cheated on. I'm too cute for him to not do completely right by me. Boy, You are fooling yourself because I was played like a fiddle. It don't matter how cute you are, how nice you are. I thought being a nice girl, being nice, doing everything right, let me bake, let me cook, that didn't get me nowhere, because if someone to me doesn't have any fear or respect, let's say this, doesn't have respect for their body, let alone a fear of God, what is keeping them to stay committed to you, to stay loyal, or to just do right by you in all areas? Because even me, if I'm not connected to God, I could have been that girl that, sleeps with a friend to get back at him, plays revenge, because I've actually been there and done that in my earlier years. So it's like, without God, who is to keep your male in check? Who is to keep even myself in check from doing something crazy? Because without praying and talking to God, I was really wondering, how did I get over him? Because I thought I was never going to get over that relationship because I wanted it to work so bad. And God revealed to me it's because I kept praying for him. I just kept praying. Even though I knew we weren't going to be together or get back together, I just kept praying. And God ultimately brought me through it and took that thorn out my flesh, even when I thought I would never be healed from that relationship. He brought me to a place where I can be single and be on my own and not be so desperate. It also brought me to a place where I believe in relationships where you experience goodness and disappointment is going to come eventually, because that's what all my boyfriends or situationships have brought me. They were really good at the beginning and they ended up with huge, horrifying disappointments because I did not seek God if that was the man for me. Biggest ultimate red flag, if he just has no respect for himself and his body and have self-control over it, being for the streets, why would he respect you? Why would he have self-control around you? Moral of my story is in God's word from Song of Songs. Do not awaken love before it's time, because like the song of Maya's song, The Case of the Ex, you will be about to catch a case behind your ex. All because God did not ordain you to be with that person. God will heal you and make it as if it never happened when you return to him and you give that person back to God and just pray for them that they will get right within and with God and grow up, as we all need to mature spiritually. I wasn't perfect, nor was I able to stand up for myself, but ultimately God turned it around for my good. If a person is draining you, they're not adding to you, and all they do is take away your joy, take away your peace, know that God is the comforter and the source, the Prince of Peace, and he would not give you someone that would hurt you, and that he will give you a plan of escape. He loves you and he wants to see you flourish.